World War I technology was proven to be ineffective after the Industrial Revolution's advancement of World War II's technology. The difficulty with world wars was that one either needed to be a dominant ally or face the loss of war. December 7th, the day the Japanese kamikaze bombers attacked Hawaii's Navy base in Pearl Harbor, was reason enough for the United States to change from a neutral war stance to joining the war against Japanese, the German, and Italian forces. One of the worst effects on the new technology was weaponry. Another is the radar navigation the different countries possessed. Another thing that was ineffective was the war types. World War I was trench warfare, and World War II was an armed war. The technology from World War I is significantly nowhere near the level of danger that World War II brought upon this planet. World War I was futile. The machine guns were not that advanced. It was typically placed on a flat tripod that required 4 to 6 operators. In theory, this could hold and fire 400 through 600 small caliber rounds per minute. Due to the way the machine gun worked back then, it was not effective. In World War II, the machine gun was much more advanced. It shot up to 1800 small caliber rounds per minute. The change in effectiveness of the two machine guns from these two different wars was plausible. The Industrial Revolution was an inspiration to new inventions like warplanes, and led up to the experimentation and creation of the nuclear bomb for the war. It is the day that will live in infamy because the USA's involvement brought the construction of a superweapon. The damage the nuclear bomb caused to Hiroshima and Nagasaki was catastrophic. The Industrial Revolution was a positive and negative thing for the US. For a positive example, it did increase war defense. It sped up the transportation for the soldiers, the cars, planes, and even the moral spirit that America grew to have. America was known for their spirit and pride for their country during this time. It was not the most organized. At this time, women's rights became a big controversy, and the Great Depression had just ended, and it was a mess. It was impeccable timing too, because shortly after the US joined the World War, and off it was. Not many understood the potential the American Army had. It was difficult to enter a war a couple years after, but they did it. Since the nuclear bomb was the newest spine-chilling weapon ever known, it is possible that to this day, it may still be the most spine-chilling weapon ever known. It is dangerous to not only soldiers in war, but the radiation that nuclear bombs have is just as strong as the explosion damage. The earliest uses for airplanes during a war was the aerial reconnaissance. Units flying over enemy territory was searching for enemy artillery or troops. Poison gas was probably the most feared of all weapons in World War I. Over 90% of persons within 500 meters of the ground in both cities died. The damage this bomb can do is tremendous, and that's partly why World War II's weapons were far more advanced than World War I weapons. One huge invention or technological device that was critical during World War II was the radar. It was the most important device because it was used in much ways as finding enemy location, allied location, and even missile location. It has been said that the radar won the war for their allies in World War II. Not only did it help the allies, it also was a huge contributor to the technology as well. Though this was true, it was a huge accomplishment to have, and it was just as useful as a machine gun was to the war. Whether or not it was considered a weapon, it was still undoubtedly a new form of technology. Some claim that World War II was a good thing. However, it was actually one of the most casualties for the United States, at 418,500 casualties. It was not a good thing. While the war was going on, it was controversial on whether the US did the right thing and created the nuclear warhead. It was even more controversial to whether or not the US should have actually used it. The technology began to grow more and more around this time, and it was the end of the war. That was the worst part. The war ended on May 8th, 1945, and from then on, it was the race for technology advancement, known as the Cold War. The way the US won the First World War was not enough anymore, and that is why the Army learned a new fighting technique. It went from trench warfare to armed mobile warfare. More than 2,500 miles of trenches were dug along the Western Front. The biggest challenge with trench warfare was it was slow and non-organized. It was easy to be killed since the soldiers were trapped in one slot. With armed warfare, it was easier to be stealthy. It is not necessary, and it made technology in the 1940s dangerous. Many families were affected and many were in danger in the close by the radius. Attacking was a big mistake, but it is part of history. It is part of the mistakes the military chose and forever followed. The dangers were tremendous compared to the dangers of World War I. Others might say because the Japanese attacked the US, it gave the United States Army a right to attack in retaliation. Weapons are getting unimaginably dangerous, and it's too late to get back and change that. Trains, planes, cars, boats, and even people are evolved because of World War II. Before the Industrial Revolution, many would have never even dreamed about having these creations. It leaves people thinking of the things they could do if they went back in time. Was it worth it? Was the war going to be lost without it? Can the United States win without a war and nuclear weapon?